Welcome to the Worshipped Woman podcast. I am your host, kellykristin. I am a life and relationship coach, deep healing facilitator, and subconscious change expert. On this podcast, we will dive deep into personal growth, transformation, and relationships, releasing patterns of toxicity, codependency, and people-pleasing as we explore what it means to be the worshipped woman. If you are ready to heal, embody your worth, and raise your standards in life and love, you are in the right place. I am so happy to have you here. Now, let's get started. Hello, sisters. Welcome back to the podcast. Kelly here, and I am so excited that you are joining me today, that you decided to press play on this and hang out, even if just for a little while. It's been a little bit since you've heard my voice, and I'm so excited to get back into the podcast recording. I have a lot of episodes in the pipeline right now, including some really cool guests and a lot of stuff in the works, and I'm excited to keep expanding the vision of the worshipped woman. I'm excited to keep delivering you what you want. And as a reminder, I do take podcast requests. So I will actually link this in the show notes, but there is a segment on here that I do time to time called Ask Kelly Anything, the AKA episodes. And those are listener submitted questions. And sometimes those shows are best when it's like a specific question, because I can go in about your exact topic. Now, every time somebody sends me a question doesn't mean that I'm going to do an episode about it. And if you send me a random question that is just very, very vague and I don't even know what you're talking about, I can't even possibly answer it. And I know that there's plenty of people that have done that, and I don't have the bandwidth to respond and say, hey, I can't figure out what you're trying to say here. So if you do want to ask me a question, you want to make sure that it's something that is answerable, right? Something that is, hey, I'm struggling with this, and this. What about, I've tried this. What do you think about this? Just specific things, or telling about your situation or something like that, and something that I could actually dive into and answer. That is super helpful. You can do that right on kellykristintraining.com/podcast. I will put that in the show notes. And you can also just send me a DM on the Instagrams. I'm at Miss MS Kelly Kristin, and I do have some AKA episodes that are coming in the pipeline. But I just wanted to remind you that if you're ever listening to this and you hear me say something, you're like, oh, I want to know more about that, or I wonder how that applies to me. Because the thing is even though you might think your specific question is very specific to you, there's actually a lot of people that can benefit, because many people are in very similar situations and we don't recognize that. And a lot of times it can make us feel isolated, that we're alone. But I'm here to let you know that you're not alone in your experience. And if I can help you, I will. With that being said, today's episode, we're going to talk about something that I feel has been coming up over and over again, just between my group, between my private clients. And it's just been this theme that we've all been dealing with all around the same time. And so anytime that happens, I just personally feel you know what, the collective maybe needs to hear this. Maybe there's something in the air and we're all going through this. But what I'm really wanting to talk about today is a little bit about the healing process and some things that happen that I think are maybe counterintuitive, or just what is even healing really, right? So we have this idea about healing, one day we're going to be magically healed, and whatever that means, right? There's this very interesting idea out there that when you are healed, quote unquote healed, you will, not be triggered anymore, or you won't be this way anymore, that way anymore, whatever it is, fill in the blank here. And the thing about healing is, and the thing about actually doing the work where you're releasing past trauma, where you're becoming a new person, you can't do that if you are not really feeling and if you are not present. So there's two things that happen, right? There is this mindset thing that a lot of people talk about of like, it doesn't matter what happened, like go on, live your life, move forward, plow through. And yes, that's great, but there's a couple of different ways to go about that. There's the I'm going to ignore everything that I've been through and pretend like it didn't affect me. And then I'm basically just going to become an overachiever or somebody who just has to do all of the time to feel okay and never actually process what happened and never actually be in my body, never actually be fully present to life. And then, run around my life just trying to get achievements and accolades in order to feel good, right? Or there's the other side that's like, this happened. There's nothing I can do about it. It happened. And I have the power to live my life in a new way, but I'm going to process. I'm going to actually release the stuff that's bothering me rather than just simply try to override it. Now, I think that a lot of like mindset coaches and things, it's just like, oh, just change your mindset and you'll be good and you'll be on your way. And while I think mindset work is very, very beneficial and really, really helpful in so many ways, right? Because think about it, mindset shifts that you can, one mindset shift is like, gosh, my life is so horrible. Nothing's working out for me. Okay, great. Here's another mindset shift that's really easy that says, actually, what if this was all working in my favor? And what if there's a lesson here that I need to learn? And what if I was meant to be in this space and time, learning this, going through this experience? That's a mindset thing. You don't need to like process anything. You just need to allow yourself to maybe wrap your head around that concept, right? That's an example of a mindset shift. Those are great. And if you just do mindset work and you don't actually process anything you've been through, you're going to continue to play out old wounding that you haven't healed, right? And this is why so many times, and I cannot tell you how many women I have worked with like this, where they are so successful career-wise, successful, making great money, having the great career, having all of these things, and yet their relationships are toxic. Their relationships, they can't seem to get into a nice, healthy, loving relationship that they want. It's because that old wounding doesn't just go away, right? So it doesn't matter if you're doing all this extra stuff and you have success in other areas. If you have the old wounding, it's not just going to go away. You actually have to deal with it. You can't not deal with it. And so the thing about healing is that healing is not being this like robotic type of person where you just act like you're good all of the time and everything is okay when it's not. That's not healing. That's denial. What healing actually is being available to life. It's being available to the moment. It's being more in touch with your emotions. It's being more in touch with your body. It's then listening and acting on what your body is telling you. And that doesn't mean you wallow in your emotions, but it means that you allow them to be there. And that's the thing, right? That's the thing. Oftentimes when we're in these patterns of like doing, achieving, going, having to be something all of the time, and all of these ideas that we have and the expectations that we put on ourselves, all of these things, what we're not doing is allowing ourselves to feel, right? Like so many coping mechanisms like eating, drinking, drugging, mindlessly scrolling, watching lots of television. These are all like coping mechanisms that get us out of our body, get us out of our feelings, get us out of having to process anything that we're going through. We just keep on keeping on. And if we just keep on keeping on, well, then that's how we end up with like dis-ease inside of our body. That's how we end up with emotional dysregulation, where we can't actually handle our own emotions and our nervous systems go haywire. And you might have heard me say this before, but your nervous system health is actually what's dictating your physical health, your emotional health, all of it. So it's really, really important. It's all tied in together. And the major thing with like nervous system regulation is actually just being able to recognize your emotions and to allow them to be there, and to allow yourself to feel angry if you're angry, to allow yourself to feel sad if you're sad, to allow yourself to feel joyous when you're joyful, right? It's allowing more of yourself. Healing is about more of you. It's becoming more of you. It's becoming more expressive. It's becoming more full. It's not acting like, oh, I don't feel this way or that. No, it's more. I want more of you. I want your opinions. I want your thoughts. I want your feelings. I want you to show me who you are. That is healing. Not having to pretend like everything's good or to tidy it up in a box, right? And I think that's a misconception that we have of like, oh, when I'm healed, I won't be overly emotional or whatever the heck it is that we tell ourselves, right? Like these stories we have. Oh, I was told I was too emotional. Are you too emotional? Or, just did whoever raising you not really know how to handle your emotions? So they had to stop them because they couldn't handle their own emotions, right? Emotions are not bad. If emotions were bad, why would we have them? I mean, seriously, think about this. Your body is so intelligent. Think about how your heart beats your blood through your body and, your body's temperature regulates itself and all of these incredible things, your digestive system. Like, oh my gosh, your body is a miracle. Do you get that? Your body is a miracle. And you want to tell me that emotions are bad or that you shouldn't be feeling a way that you're feeling? What? You think your body doesn't know better than that, right? You're allowed to feel your emotions. They're there for a reason. But the trick is that you got to let yourself feel them and you got to let yourself be okay with them just being there, not attaching meaning to them. This is where we can get stuck, right? Because if we actually just let ourselves feel the emotions that we're feeling fully, they last for like maximum 90 seconds. It's the story that we attach to them. It's the story that we tell ourselves about how we're feeling that perpetuates the emotion, right? And I see this so much, especially, I'm working with a lot of women that have come out of relationships that were quite toxic and they're feeling, different levels of grief, anger, sadness, all this stuff. And I'm like, great. Feel that. Oh, I don't want to be sad anymore. It's like, okay, we broke up a couple months ago or a year ago. I don't want to be sad anymore. Okay, well, your resistance to actually just letting yourself be sad or mad or whatever is under there is actually what's perpetuating that feeling for you. Because if you just let yourself feel it and process it and not make it mean anything about having to be with this person or not make it mean anything about you should do this or you should do that, but actually just letting it be there and letting yourself feel, making yourself right, making yourself okay for having the feelings that you do instead of telling yourself that you're wrong, that's healing. Letting yourself be yourself is healing. Letting yourself express yourself is healing. Letting yourself speak your truth is healing. I want more. I want more. I want more. That's what it's about. I want more of you, not less. And we really need to throw away the ideas of, oh, when I am fully healed, I will, or when I am fully healed, then this will happen. I mean, I don't even know what fully healed really means, and oftentimes I also talk to women and work with women that have been in toxic relationships in the past, and then they get in a new relationship and they're like, it's good and it's healthy, but you know what? I'm still triggered. I get triggered and I don't know what to do. Well, welcome to life. You're never not going to be triggered ever. Like, we are emotional beings and there will be some things that just make us have an emotional reaction, right? And what do you do with that emotional reaction is the question. Do you have the skills where you're actually able to just feel your emotion, let it come up and let it come down, instead of feel your emotion, tighten around it, close around it, and then therefore stick it in your body and make that energy stuck in there and not process it, right? Because the truth is if you go from a lot of toxic relations to a healthy relationship, that's also difficult. It comes with its own sets of rewiring of your nervous system, right? Especially if you've been in situations before where you were having a lot of anxiety, if you're in fight or flight mode a lot in past relationships and something maybe similar happens in your new relationship that's not toxic, your body will still have that same old reaction because it's a habitual reaction that you've had. Now, the question is, can you soften around that? Can you loosen that reaction? Can you react a new way? But this is where the work is. This is where the body awareness stuff comes in. This is why embodiment practice is so important, because you have to be aware of these things. If you're not aware of your body and you're just like, I'm triggered and I don't know why and I don't know what to do, and just kind of freak out about it, what you're doing is you're actually keeping that energy inside of your body instead of discharging it. And that's actually more harmful than just letting yourself feel it, letting yourself be there with it, and then doing some processing around it. And that's a little bit out of the scope of this podcast, right? Because it's actually exercises and things that I do with my clients and do in the programs where I'm actually showing you, like, how do you take this energy of this trigger, work it through your body and open around it instead of close? And what do you do when you have a heightened emotional reaction? How do you actually discharge that energy before you can, come back to a place of peace and connectedness? This is all important. But what I really want you to understand is that healing is not about like being perfect all the time or perfectly healed. Those things don't exist. It's about being you. And it's about being okay with being you. It's about letting yourself feel your emotions. It's about letting yourself get angry when you're angry. It's about letting yourself express when you need to express. And that's also allowing yourself to be vulnerable, right? That's hard. That's a hard thing to do for a lot of us, letting ourselves be vulnerable, letting ourselves say what we're actually feeling, letting ourselves really let other people see us in our truth. That's a vulnerable thing to do. So I'm not saying that this is easy, but that's healing, because the truth is that the more comfortable you can be expressing yourself and allowing yourself to really be authentic to what's real and present in your life, the more you can actually accept yourself for who you are. And then guess what happens when that happens? When you accept and appreciate yourself for who you are, you attract other people in your life that accept and appreciate you for who you are. And then guess what happens? You have deeper relationships. You have better relationships. You have more intimate relationships. And doesn't that sound a whole lot better to you? Doesn't that sound a whole lot better than having to pretend like you're okay when you're not, having to pretend like something is fine with you when it's really not, having to pretend like you're happy when you're really not? No, nobody wants to do that. That's shit. Like, really, think about that. That's shit. That sucks. Nobody wants to do that. But yet most people live their life like that because they're actually too afraid to do the work that healing requires, which is vulnerable, scary, and oftentimes uncomfortable. It's a very interesting thing too. If you're somebody who has never really been in tune with your emotions before, and then all of a sudden you're getting back into your body, you're feeling things that you haven't felt, it feels very scary. There's a lot of unknown, right? And there's a lot of grief even around this process. And that's all part of it. This is why, you hear things like healing is a journey. It's not like this one thing that's going to make you feel better or something. It's really a process. Life is a process. Like, life doesn't ever stop coming around, right? That's why it's so important to build resiliency and to allow yourself to be okay with who you actually are, and allow yourself to be okay with what you're feeling, what you're processing, what you're going through. And this is the important part, not making it mean anything about you, and knowing that you get to choose a new way, whatever that way is that you want, knowing that you have the power to co-create your reality. And if you want to feel better, if you want to have something different for yourself, you can absolutely create that. All of that is true. And it doesn't mean anything if you're feeling really, really good and then all of a sudden something happens and you feel triggered and not good. It's not like, oh, I thought I was more healed than this. What? Like, what do you mean? It's just life. It's just life. Life comes along. It's about building the resiliency that it's okay to do that. It's okay to feel. And you can feel and then go, okay, back on the path that I want to be on, or whatever it is, right? Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some love. Give yourself some compassion. You're just a human doing the best that you can. And feelings can be really scary sometimes. But you're okay to have them. So just practice that. If you take away nothing from anything I said on this podcast today, this key takeaway here, this is it. Allow yourself to be okay with your emotions being there. Don't make them wrong. Don't make them bad. What if you didn't have to do anything with it? What if you just noticed it, allowed it to be there, and then allowed it to go. That's it. Practice that. Practice that, and then come back to me and tell me how you feel. All right. That is going to be it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, if you want to take a screenshot, tag me on Instagram at Miss kellykristin, or you can tag at worshippedwoman. Finally got that account going again. You can tag there. Let us know that you're listening. Let me know what your biggest takeaway from the episode was. And if you feel so inclined to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcast, I would be so very grateful for that. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you soon.